Garden Show Season 2. Today one of the things we're going to talk about is a greenhouse. Right here, we've got right here a portable greenhouse that we're going to build for you today and talk a little bit about the purposes of a greenhouse and different things that you can do with it. So let's get started. Here we are. Now greenhouses come in different sizes, all the way up to you can make them. We chose a portable one because of where we live. I mean, if you had more space or you owned your property, I'm sure you could, build a permanent structure if you liked. So what we're going to do first is we're going to lay all of our materials out in some sort of orderly fashion. Now of course if you get a different brand, you'll have different materials. And your instructions should tell you everything that should be in your box. Okay. So we need 12 of these. They're called cross poles. Yep, that's correct. We need 2 of these, which are called roof arches. We need 16 of the smaller ones. They're calling these uprights. We need 4 trays, which are right here. This is your cover. And we need 10 of these, which are called cross members. Perfect, so everything is here. Now, there aren't any other tools required besides what's here. So you won't need anything else except maybe a knife to cut through the tape to open your boxes. One of the biggest advantages of having a greenhouse, you can have a place, you can extend your growing season considerably. You can start your seedlings and let them mature before it's time to plant them into the soil. Or you could even use it, depending on the size of your greenhouse and what you're growing, to grow everything in your everything that you want, vegetables, flowers, anything like that, and not even have an outdoor garden if you choose to. This is perfect for maybe if you live in a colder climate and you can't grow certain things in your soil, or if you want to just have, if you just want to have just 1 or 2 potted plants and you don't have very much of a yard, you can still grow a little bit of something in around your home. So now we have all the frame together. These are your shelves. And they'll just slide in like that. And the last thing is the cover. Alright, now let's put the cover on. Let the window cooperate with us. Now this cover does have some ties on it. Down just like this. And then once your plants are in there, you zip it up. Now the purpose of the cover is it gathers up the sun's rays and reflects it into there onto your plants and keeps your plants warm and happy and able to grow even if it's a little bit cold. What I would also suggest, if you get one that's portable like the one we have here, is some sort of way to attach it to wherever you have it sitting. You know, whether you get some things to put down through the bottom crossbars or whatever, because you know it is quite windy here and it's been shaking it back and forth as we've been putting it together. So I would suggest getting something to make sure that it stays where you want it to stay. But that's it. We're all finished, and now it's waiting for our plants, and the plants will just go in there. And of course, you want to make sure you water them. You know, even though this is, you know, it's a greenhouse and it keeps them warm and happy and growing, they'll still require water. You also want to monitor the temperature inside and not let them get too hot, because that'll harm the plants. And how you would cool it down is just to unzip it a little bit. There are some hooks here on the back of this particular model that you could probably use for something to strap it in place as well. So that's it. Okay, the next thing we're going to discuss today is what a garden will probably look like, what your garden will probably look like after a long winter between harvest and when you're about ready to plant again. So let's get to that. Now, as you can see, the weeds and the grass are really growing up in there. So this will probably be about what your garden will look like after your last harvest. We've gotten kind of a late start this year because we've had some cooler weather and we've had a lot of rain, so we haven't got to it yet. Now, the first thing you'll want to do, which will make it easier for the rototiller, is you'll want to drop your mower in here and go ahead and mow a lot of this down. Like I said, that'll make it easier on your rototiller to cut through this. Something else that's worth noting is if you have things like I do, like the strawberry plants down here, you'll really want to make sure that you keep, as you see, the weeds, are not that bad around here. That's because I have been trying to pull the weeds around them to keep the weeds back. You really want to make sure that the weeds are away from them, because if they get up too high, they'll strangle your plants out. So you want to make sure, regardless of what you do with the rest of your garden, if it's not planted yet, you really want to make sure, if you have seasonal plants, plants that'll come up year after year, you really want to make sure that you keep all the weeds away from them as best as you can. Now, I'm not saying come out here, it's 90 below or whatever. I just kind of keep an eye on them, make sure they're doing okay, make sure that the weeds aren't getting too bad around them. That way it'll keep them growing and you won't have to replant them. Okay guys, so as you can see, we've got the garden mowed down, weeds in the garden mowed down and pulled out as best as we can, and we got everything rototilled up. So now what we're going to do is we are going to get ready to plant our seeds and our plants. First, we want to talk to you a little bit about our choice on getting a bag of compost. Now, originally we were going to get a bag of peat moss, but on further investigation, I found that peat moss may be more harmful to the environment than it is good for your garden. For starters, the peat moss is taken from peat bogs, and it's derived mostly from decaying mosses and other organic materials. However, it takes several millennia for the peat moss to start to form. Though there are actions taken for controlling how much peat moss is being farmed out of the peat bogs, it still takes a long time for it to come to form back, and it also takes a lot from the environment. It also, people have argued that it releases carbon, which stays released in that environment long after the farming of peat moss has been completed. So what we decided to do is we decided to get a bag of compost. Now, you can get this from any of your garden stores or a place that sells mulch and soil by the truckloads, or you may even be able to find a local farmer or your local municipality to see if they have any for you. Now, what you want out of your compost is you want to make sure, test the smell of it. It should not smell like garbage. It shouldn't smell like sulfur. It shouldn't smell like anything bad. And then the consistency of it, it should be light and fluffy. and it should look like just good, decent soil. There shouldn't be any rocks or sticks or chunks of plastic or anything like that in it. Good things would be if you were getting it and you found some worms in there or some little insects, because that shows a capacity to support life. Some places you can, at where you buy it at, you should probably ask, if you're looking for totally organic, you should probably ask what exactly they do and they put into their compost pile. Now, we've decided that we're only going to use the compost on the rows that we're going to plant on. However, if you wanted to use it on your entire garden, that would be entirely up to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to decide where our rows are going to be, and then we're going to dump some along the row, and then we're going to till it in to the soil that's already there. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, so we've got the compost spread. As you can see, you look at it, that's about the consistency that you want. We didn't quite have enough to do the whole garden, so that's the point, that you might want to make sure that you have enough before you get started, as it makes the process a whole lot quicker. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the rototiller, and we're going to start turning this over into the soil, mixing it with the soil that we already have. So let's get started with that. Alright, now we got that rototilled in, so now what we're going to do is I'm just going to start making the trenches to put our seeds in. Okay guys, now that the little trenches are dug for our seeds, now it's time to choose which seeds we want to put in which rows. So one of the first things that you want to consider is which things get along better with other plants. Another thing that you want to consider is how much room each thing will need to grow to full maturity. Now see, this year we have beets, radishes, cucumbers, and green bean seeds. We also have a few plants here behind me to plant. So let's start with cucumbers. On the back of most seed packets, they give you an idea about how far apart to plant your seeds. It also tells you how long to maturity and how long it should take for your seeds to come up. I usually plant about 3 or 4 cucumber seeds per hill. And what I also usually do is I usually put the seeds in the ground first, and then I'll go back over and I'll cover them up. And here we have a couple of cucumber plants that we're going to try. Now, with these particular containers, you don't really have to take the plant out of the container. There's some instructions here. It's a biodegradable pot. And what you're supposed to do is obviously take the plastic part off. Then you're supposed to peel off the bottom here. Okay. Now you're supposed to make it good and wet before you plant it. And I always like to leave the little things that come with it. I usually like to leave them right by the plant. Or at the beginning of your rows if you have enough of the plants that way. Now what I usually do if I just have a partial row, I'll use the other part of the row to plant something else. The most important things are you make sure that your plants are getting the required sunlight and water that they need to grow and mature. So it doesn't really hurt, in my opinion, to share rows. So what I've chosen to plant in the same row is our beets. There's what your beet seed should look like. Now, some things have a shorter growing season, like beets is a perfect example. If you get them in the ground and they mature soon enough, sometimes you can get another crop if you have a long enough growing season. Okay, now we're going to plant the radish seeds. Let me get one opened up. I'll show you what their seeds should look like. Here are what the radish seeds look like. Now with these and the beet seeds, I try to just sprinkle them along the little trench that I've already made. They have different varieties. They even have white radishes if you prefer. It just depends on, your taste. Now, one idea you can use with the empty seed packets, you can poke a hole in the bottom as well. You can just take them and slip them down over whatever you were using to mark your rows. Just like that. And then you should know where you planted each thing. One idea that I use is I just take a regular notebook and I make a little diagram of my garden and I write in there where I planted everything. And then I make notes on what day I planted them, when they started to come up, how they turned out, maybe some ideas for the next garden season, things like that. So the next thing we're going to plant is our green beans. That's what green bean seeds should look like. These are one of the things that they recommend. You plant several per hill and then spread the hills apart, so that's what we're going to do. I usually put about 3 or 4. Now what we got, I'm going to plant these few green bean plants. You can get them in the store already started, if you wish. Also, there's several different varieties of green beans that you can get. In fact, several different varieties of beans altogether. So, but these aren't biodegradable, they're plastic. So, with these, how I get them out is I just push gently on the bottom until it starts to pop out enough. And you see how the dirt just falls off of it, so you have to be careful of that. Okay, so next thing we're going to plant is our cabbage back there. So, we're almost done with the cabbages. plenty. Cover them over with dirt and press them down a little bit. Last little bit of the row, I think I'm going to go ahead and plant some more green beans. Right. Well, now that we've got everything planted, last but not least, what we want to do is we want to water everything down real good. The plants that you actually planted, you might want to wait until the sun goes down a little bit, or it's a little cooler in the day, because the hot sun, if you water them, will scorch the plants. But before we get to that, we should talk about our own safety and our own needs. Now, if at all possible, I recommend that you try not to do your garden in the very hottest part of the day. But if it's unavoidable, please make sure that you stay hydrated and take frequent breaks in the shade when and where possible. What I'm doing, since it is the hottest part of the day and the sun's still out, what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to water at the base of the plant so as not to get any of it on the leaves. Okay, well, that's it. Be sure to join us next time where we talk about different methods for weed control and a lot more. Okay, see ya. Bye.